The word collector. People collect the strangest things, but animals such as squirrels also collect things. I am sure you collect a few things too, like toys or hats. Maybe you collect balls. I do not know. But in today's story, I want to tell you about the old troll Pollix, who for almost 2 centuries had made it a habit to collect individual words if they had very specific magical properties. Over time, he had collected a whole lot of words and guarded his vocabulary like the apple of his eye, so that none of the words would be lost. But how did this come about? How does one come up with the idea of collecting words? In the case of our troll Pollix, it has to do with an incident in his early youth. From that day on, he devoted his entire life to searching for magical words, which he, once he had found one, carefully entered into a large book so that he would never lose them. At first, it was just a small notebook, but it grew into a thick, handwritten book containing only individual words and terms, page after page. He had carefully noted the meaning of each word and the magical power it contained. Over the years, he had learned that almost every word had its own magic if you said it at the right time, in the right way, and in the right place. But let us start the story at the beginning. The still quite young troll Pollix, who was about 60 years old, was once desperately searching for his reading glasses and could not find them. You have to know that trolls can live to be very old, and a young troll can already have almost 100 years under his belt. Really old trolls can easily be several hundred years old. So, Pollix was once again desperately searching for his glasses, when he simply could not find them. The word blasted burst out of him. Almost startled by his tongue's independence, he jerked his head up. And what do you think happened? The glasses slid down onto his nose because he had previously pushed them far up over his forehead to his hairline and then forgotten they were up there. Pollix was quite astonished. The glasses were back in place, and he realized that the magic word blasted alone was to blame for what had happened. Well, that is a fine word. I will write it down right away so I do not forget it again so quickly. At the time, Pollix had no idea that he had begun to build up an astonishingly large collection of words. Over the years and decades, he accumulated an incredible treasure trove of strange words. There were words like blimey, Gordon Bennett, good heavens, my goodness, eureka, bosh, chop chop, poppycock, and many more. But what do you do with all these words, apart from making sure none of them slip away? Pollix pondered this on a snowy afternoon in January. He sat comfortably in his wing chair and brooded over the problem. What can you do with all these wonderful words? Pollix thought long and hard, but at first he could not come up with a solution. Time passed, and Pollix sat and sat and thought and thought. And then, click! On a sunny August day of the same year, he jumped out of his wing chair and was quite sure of himself. He had a solution. If I have collected so many words, then it is very likely that someone will be missing 1 or 2 of them. He wanted to get straight to work to find the people he could help with 1 or 2 words. But first, he wanted to make himself a cup of tea, eat something good, trim his long beard, and take a bath. After all, he had been sitting in his wing chair for several months, thinking about his question. In his day, there were druids, goblins, witches, herbalists, elves, other wise men, trolls, and the odd, serious wizard, alongside normal people and animals. Magic, and my magical words from the collection, there must be some way, if only they could be combined. Pollix thought some more, was quite delighted and excited, and set off the next day to visit the oldest troll in the whole Shire. At that time, there were no municipalities or countries. The realm was divided into so-called shires. Dear Pollix, the ancient chief troll greeted our old acquaintance. You have traveled a long way. What brought you here outside of the moot? The chief troll Mergennoll wanted to know. The moot was the name given to the large assemblies that took place every 5 years. All matters concerning the realm were discussed there, and at the Shire moot, those concerning the Shire. Yes, dear Mergen Knoll, it was a long journey, but I was happy to make it. On the way, you meet many dear old acquaintances, stop for a moment, eat together, and finally set off for the next stop on the journey. But finally, I have arrived at your place, and, of course, I have not forgotten my request. But first of all, I would like to present you with my welcome gift. With these words, Pollix pulled a small leather bag from his wide cloak. It contains seeds from the Tree of Life, which you have wanted for so long. You will see, in 5 years or so, you will have a magnificent tree in your garden, and you will be able to enjoy its blossoms and leaves. Well, I am glad you thought of that, old friend. Come, sit down with me, have a glass of wine. You must be tired, hungry, and thirsty from your long journey. Pollix had indeed been traveling for about 4 moons. A bath would do him good, he thought to himself. After a sumptuous meal, plenty of good mead and conversations about this and that, Pollix finally returned to his request. Master Mergen Knoll, he began, I wanted to ask you whether you have a list of all the elves, druids, herbalists, witches and wizards in the realm. What do you intend to do with all these people? Mergen Knoll pricked up his ears. Of course I have such a list, since I always invite everyone to the moot. Well, I want to contact them all and talk to them because I have an idea of how I could offer my services. As you know, I have amassed a considerable collection of words over the years. Now, I would like to put this collection of words to good use, and I thought that my services might be appreciated. That sounds very exciting. Please let me know what becomes of it. With that, Master Mergen Knoll handed our Troll Pollix a handwritten list with many names and places where these people could be found. Since I only have one list, you will have to sit down and copy it out neatly, because I cannot, of course, give you my only complete list of druids. So, our Pollix sat at Master Mergen Knoll's table in the parlor for several days, holding a well-sharpened goose quill in his hand, and writing one name and address after another in beautiful letters with ink on a piece of parchment. He then rolled up the sheets of parchment, stowed them safely in his rucksack, said a long farewell to Master Mergen Knoll, and set off on the long journey home. At each rest stop, he looked at the names and places on the list, and there were quite a few wizards, druids, elves, witches, and herbalists on his way home. Whenever he was received, he got straight to the point, as straight as a troll can get to the point, with his request. Imagine you are preparing a magic potion. You have all the ingredients. You write down the recipe and use one of my magic words in a spell. Then, another wizard far away from here could perform the same spell using the magic word, and you could use his formulas and magic words to perform magic that was previously unknown to you. The druids, elves, witches, wizards, and herbalists thought this was a good idea. All you would need to do is read what your colleague did in such a case, recite the magic word, use the same ingredients, and the customer would be helped. Yes, that will be a great thing. The creatures were enthusiastic. Certain barriers would be lifted at once, because now we could share our knowledge of magic, herbs, and their effectiveness with each other. How should we proceed, dear Pollix? Well, you can write down your recipe, your magic formula, or your secret spell, and its hoped-for effect. Send it to me by carrier pigeon, and I will add a magic word to it. Then I will write everything down in a large book, and in the end, we will have a real magic book. It can be copied, and over time, all magical beings will have access to the entire knowledge of the realm. A fairy who was so enthusiastic about the idea said, "A spellbook." Exactly, that is the right word. We are working on a spellbook. In fact, after less than 10 years, the same spellbook was available to everyone in the realm. The first copy had been copied over and over again by pious monks, because printing presses, photocopiers, the internet and email did not exist at that time, of course. And would you like to know what the first spellbook was called? Perhaps you have heard the name before. In large letters embossed in leather, the word was written on the cover of the book. Abracadabra. And with that, we have reached the end of our fairy tale for today.